Is your summer garden secretly doomed before it even starts? If you're planning on waiting until April to plant your tomato seeds, the answer could be a heartbreaking yes. A few weeks of delay can be the difference between a handful of mediocre fruit and a vine-ripening, season-long avalanche of deliciousness. Many gardeners make the same simple timing mistake, year after year, and then wonder why their harvest is so small. Well, the secret isn't some expensive fertilizer or complicated technique. The secret is timing, and the clock is ticking right now, in March. So stay right where you are, because in this video, I am going to reveal the urgent must-do steps for planting tomatoes this month. This is the method that separates the amateur patch from a legendary, non-stop harvest. And I promise, what you learn today will change how you grow tomatoes forever. Are you ready to guarantee your best harvest ever? Let's dig in. Before we get our hands dirty, let's understand why March is the magic month. It's not just an arbitrary date on the calendar, it's a strategic move in a season-long game against time. See, tomatoes are heat-loving plants that need a long growing season to produce a truly abundant crop. Most parts of the country have a limited window of perfect warm weather. If you plant your seeds directly in the garden after the last frost, the plants simply don't have enough time to mature and produce fruit to their full potential before the season ends. By starting them indoors in March, you are essentially creating a head start. You're giving these tiny seeds a 6 to 8 week running start in a controlled, safe environment. This means that when the weather outside is finally warm and stable enough, you're not planting a fragile seed. You're planting a strong, vigorous young plant that is already weeks, if not months, ahead in its life cycle. This is the foundational principle that all successful tomato growers understand and exploit for maximum yield. So let's talk about the absolute urgency of March. This month is the non-negotiable deadline for achieving tomato greatness. Think of it in terms of growing degree days, which is a fancy way of saying your plants need a certain amount of warmth over time to develop. By starting inside, you're banking those warm days in a controlled setting. Waiting until April means you lose 30 critical days from the start of the season. That's 30 days your plants could have been developing strong roots and lush foliage. This early start also means you get to harvest earlier in the summer, and for many varieties, you'll be harvesting for a much longer period. For indeterminate tomatoes, which produce fruit all season long, starting in March is the only way to maximize that continuous harvest. Procrastination in the garden is a thief. It steals your potential yield, it steals the size of your fruit, and it steals the length of your delicious harvest season. So the first and most important step is simply to begin now. Don't put it off for another weekend. Every single day in March counts towards the success of your entire summer garden. Now let's move on to choosing your champions for this early start. Not all tomato varieties are created equal, especially when it comes to getting them going in March. Your choice will heavily influence your success. First, you need to understand the difference between determinate and indeterminate tomatoes. Determinate varieties, often called bush tomatoes, grow to a fixed size, set all their fruit at once, and then they're done. These are great for container gardening or for people who want a large harvest for canning all at once. Indeterminate varieties, or vining tomatoes, will just keep growing and producing fruit all season long until the first frost kills them. For an early start, indeterminate varieties like Brandywine, Sungold, or Early Girl are fantastic because the extra time allows them to grow into massive, productive plants. However, if you're in a region with a shorter growing season, a fast maturing determinate variety like Celebrity or Roma might be a safer bet. The key is to read the seed packet. It will tell you the days to maturity. This number tells you how long it takes from transplanting the seedling into the garden to get your first ripe fruit. Choose varieties that fit your climate and your culinary goals. Once you've chosen your seeds, it's time to give them the perfect home to start their lives. The container you choose for germination is more important than you might think. You have many options, from specialized seed starting trays with individual cells to simple peat pots, soil blocks, or even recycled yogurt cups and egg cartons. The key requirements for any container are that it must be clean and it must have drainage holes. Without drainage, water will pool at the bottom, creating an environment ripe for root rot and a fungal disease called damping off, which is a death sentence for tiny seedlings. Seed starting trays are excellent because they keep things organised and often come with a humidity dome. Peat pots are great because you can plant the entire pot in the ground, which minimises transplant shock. However, they can wick moisture away from the roots if the edges are exposed to air. Recycled containers are a fantastic, budget-friendly option, but you absolutely must sterilise them with a 10% bleach solution and poke drainage holes in the bottom. Don't overcrowd your seeds. Planting 1 or 2 seeds per cell or small pot is ideal, as it prevents the seedlings from competing for light and nutrients later on. Now for arguably the most critical component, the soil, or more accurately, the growing medium. This is the seed's first meal and its entire world for the first few weeks of life. Using soil from your garden is one of the biggest and most common mistakes a beginner can make. Garden soil is heavy, compacts easily when watered in a small pot, and is filled with bacteria, fungi, and insect eggs. In the controlled indoor environment, these pathogens can run rampant and kill your delicate seedlings before they even have a chance. You must use a sterile, soilless seed starting mix. You can buy this at any garden centre. This mix is specifically designed to be light, fluffy, and free of pathogens. It holds the perfect amount of moisture while also allowing for excellent aeration, which is crucial for healthy root development. Before you plant, you should moisten the seed starting mix in a separate bucket. You want it to feel like a damp, wrung-out sponge. If you squeeze a handful, only a drop or 2 of water should come out. Pre-moistening ensures the seeds have consistent moisture all around them and prevents you from dislodging them when you first water them in. With your containers filled with moist mix, it's time for the sowing ritual. This step requires a gentle touch and a bit of precision. A common mistake is to plant tomato seeds too deep. A good rule of thumb is to plant them at a depth of about twice their diameter. For tiny tomato seeds, this means only about 1/4 of an inch deep. It's barely anything. You can use the tip of a pencil or a small stick to make a tiny indentation in the soil surface. Carefully drop 1 or 2 seeds into each hole. Planting 2 gives you a bit of insurance in case one doesn't germinate. You can always snip the weaker one later. After dropping in the seeds, gently cover them with a little more of your seed starting mix. Do not pack the soil down. You want to keep it light and airy. Just a gentle sprinkle to cover them is all that's needed. Immediately after planting, label your containers. Trust me, you will not remember which variety you planted where. Use a waterproof marker on a plant tag or even a piece of masking tape. Labelling with the variety and the date of sowing is a professional habit that will save you a lot of guesswork later. Watering your newly sown seeds requires a very gentle touch. The goal is to keep the soil consistently moist, but not waterlogged. Think damp, not soggy. The seeds need that moisture to swell and break their dormancy, but too much water will suffocate them or encourage fungal growth. The worst thing you can do is pour a stream of water from a watering can directly onto the surface. This will wash the soil away, dislodge your carefully planted seeds, and compact the mix. Instead, the best method is to use a spray bottle with a fine mist setting. A gentle misting a couple of times a day is usually sufficient to keep the surface from drying out. An even better, more foolproof method is bottom watering. To do this, you place your seed containers into a larger solid tray. You then pour a 1/2 inch or so of water into the outer tray. The dry soil in your containers will wick the water up from the bottom through the drainage holes, moisturising the soil evenly from the bottom up. Once you see the surface of the soil darken with moisture, remove the containers from the tray of water. This technique ensures deep, even moisture and encourages roots to grow downwards in search of water. Now we enter the germination game, where warmth and humidity are the keys to victory. Tomato seeds need warmth to sprout. The ideal soil temperature for tomato germination is between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 24 to 29 degrees Celsius. Your average room temperature might not be consistently warm enough. To create this cozy environment, you can place your seed tray on top of your refrigerator or near another gentle heat source. However, the most reliable way to provide consistent warmth is by using a seedling heat mat. This is a waterproof electric mat that you place under your seed tray, and it gently warms the soil to the perfect temperature. It's a game-changing tool that can significantly speed up germination. To complete the perfect germination environment, you also need high humidity. This is where the plastic humidity dome that comes with many seed trays is invaluable. If you don't have one, you can simply cover your pots or trays loosely with a sheet of clear plastic wrap. This traps moisture and warmth, creating a mini greenhouse effect that tells the seeds it's safe to sprout. The moment you see the first tiny green sprout pushing through the soil is a moment of pure joy. But it's also a critical turning point. This is the stage where many gardeners make a fatal error. The second you see that first sign of life, your seedling's primary need shifts from warmth and darkness to intense light. You must remove the humidity dome or plastic wrap immediately. Leaving it on now can trap too much moisture and lead to fungal diseases. And you need to provide a powerful light source right away. If you delay, even for a day, the seedlings will desperately stretch towards any available light source, resulting in long, thin, weak stems. This is a condition known as being leggy, and it creates a fragile plant that will struggle for the rest of its life. So be vigilant. Check your seed trays at least twice a day. The moment that green cotyledon, or seed leaf, emerges, it's time for action. Take off the cover and get those babies under a bright light source as fast as you possibly can. This immediate response is crucial for developing short, stocky and strong seedlings. So let's talk about that light source. For most people, a sunny windowsill is simply not going to be enough, especially in late winter or early spring. The light is often not intense enough, and it's only coming from one direction, which causes the seedlings to lean and stretch. To grow strong, straight and compact tomato seedlings, you really need to provide supplemental artificial light. You don't need a super expensive professional setup. Simple fluorescent shop lights or modern LED grow lights work wonderfully. The most important factor is the proximity of the light to the plants. You want to hang the lights so they are just 2 to 3 inches above the tops of your seedlings. This provides the intensity they crave and prevents stretching. As the seedlings grow taller, you will need to raise the lights to maintain this distance. Your seedlings will need a lot of light, about 14 to 16 hours per day. The easiest way to manage this is to plug your lights into an inexpensive wall timer. This ensures they get a consistent day-night cycle, which is also important for their development. This investment in a simple lighting setup is perhaps the single best thing you can do to guarantee healthy, robust seedlings. For the first week or so after sprouting, the seedling gets all the energy it needs from the seed itself, but soon it will need outside nutrition to continue its rapid growth. This is where feeding your babies comes in. The seed starting mix you used is sterile and typically contains very few, if any, nutrients, so you'll need to provide them with a gentle fertilizer. The timing is important. You should wait until your seedlings have developed their first set of true leaves. The first 2 leaves that emerge are the cotyledons, or seed leaves. They're usually oval-shaped. The next set of leaves that appear will look like miniature versions of an adult tomato leaf. These are the true leaves. Once you see these, it's time to start fertilizing. You must use a balanced liquid fertilizer, and you must dilute it to 1/4 or 1/2 of the strength recommended on the package. Over-fertilizing can burn the delicate roots of your seedlings. You can feed them with this diluted solution about once a week. This gentle but consistent feeding will provide the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium they need to develop strong stems and lush, green leaves. As we just mentioned, identifying the first true leaves is a major milestone in your seedling's life. It's a sign that the plant has successfully transitioned from living off its seed reserves to performing photosynthesis and sustaining itself. The cotyledons, those first two embryonic leaves, act like a packed lunch for the seedling. They provide the initial burst of energy needed to push through the soil and establish itself. Once the true leaves appear, the plant is officially a self-sufficient little factory, converting light into energy. This is your cue for several important actions. It signals that it's time to start your week fertilizing regimen. It also signals that the seedling is establishing a proper root system. And very soon, it will be the trigger for the next critical step: thinning. This milestone is a visual confirmation that your efforts in providing the right light, water, and warmth have paid off. You are no longer just nurturing a sprout, you are now cultivating a true, albeit tiny, tomato plant. It's a moment to celebrate your success so far before moving on to the next phase of its development. Now for a step that can feel a bit heartbreaking, but is absolutely essential for the health of your future plants: thinning the herd. If you planted 2 or 3 seeds per cell and more than one has germinated, you must choose the strongest one and eliminate the others. This feels cruel, I know, but if you let them all grow, they will be locked in a fierce competition for a very limited amount of light, water, and nutrients in that small cell. This competition will result in all of them being weaker, leggier, and less healthy. You want to channel all the resources of that cell into one single champion seedling. The best way to do this is not to pull the unwanted seedlings out. Pulling them can disturb the delicate roots of the seedling you want to keep. Instead, take a small pair of scissors and simply snip the weaker seedlings off at the soil line. It's a quick and clean process that leaves the root system of your chosen seedling completely undisturbed. Choose the one that looks the stockiest, the greenest, and the most vigorous. This ruthless but necessary act of selection ensures that your remaining plant has the best possible chance to grow into a strong, productive superstar. As your chosen seedling grows, it will eventually fill its small starting cell with roots. Its true leaves will get bigger, and it will start to look like a crowded miniature plant. This is the sign that it's time for its first move into a bigger home, a process called potting up. Typically, this is done when the seedling is about 3 to 4 inches tall and has a few sets of true leaves. You'll be moving it from its small cell into a larger 3 or 4 inch pot. This gives the root system more room to expand, which in turn supports more vigorous top growth. To do this, first prepare the new larger pots with pre-moistened potting mix, not seed starting mix. Potting mix has a slightly coarser texture and often contains a small amount of fertilizer. Gently squeeze the sides of the seedling cell to loosen the root ball. Carefully tip it over into your hand, supporting the plant by its leaves, not its fragile stem. Place the entire root ball into the new pot and fill in around the sides with more potting mix. This process is crucial for preventing the plant from becoming root-bound, a condition where the roots circle around the small pot and choke themselves, stunting the plant's growth. Here is a fantastic secret that will give your tomatoes a massive advantage: the art of deep planting. Tomatoes have a special ability that many other plants don't. All along, their stems are tiny hairs called adventitious roots. If you bury a portion of the tomato stem under the soil, these little hairs will develop into a whole new set of roots. This is an incredible trick to create a much more robust and extensive root system. So, when you are potting up your seedling into its larger pot, don't just place the root ball at the same level. Instead, gently pinch off the lowest set of leaves, the cotyledons if they are still there, and any of the first true leaves. Then, plant the seedling deep into the new pot so that the soil level comes all the way up to just below the next set of remaining leaves. All of that buried stem will sprout new roots, anchoring the plant more firmly and giving it a much greater ability to absorb water and nutrients. This single technique can result in a dramatically stronger, healthier, and more drought-resistant plant when it finally goes into the garden. While your seedlings are growing strong under their lights, there's another element from the great outdoors you should try to simulate: a gentle breeze. Indoors, the air is often very still. This can be a problem. In nature, a constant breeze forces a young plant to sway and bend. This movement signals the plant to grow a thicker, stronger stem to resist the wind. Without this stimulation, indoor-grown seedlings can sometimes develop weaker, more brittle stems. You can easily replicate this effect by placing a small, oscillating fan a few feet away from your seedling tray. Set it on its lowest speed and let it run for a few hours each day. You're not trying to create a windstorm. You just want to see the leaves gently rustling. This simple addition to their environment will work wonders for stem strength. As a bonus, the increased air circulation also helps to prevent fungal diseases like damping off by keeping the soil surface and leaves a bit drier. It's a simple step that helps toughen up your plants for their eventual move outside. After weeks of careful nurturing inside, your seedlings are strong, but they are not yet ready for the harsh realities of the outside world. They've lived a sheltered life. You can't just take them from under your grow lights and plant them directly in the garden. This would lead to severe shock, sunburn, and wind damage that could kill them. You need to put them through a process called hardening off, which is essentially a boot camp for plants. This is a gradual acclimatization to outdoor conditions over the course of a week to 10 days. On the first day, place them outside in a shady, protected spot for just 1 hour, then bring them back in. On the second day, leave them out for 2 hours, perhaps with a little bit of gentle morning sun. Each day, you gradually increase the amount of time they spend outside and the amount of direct sunlight they receive. By the end of the process, your seedlings should be able to handle a full day of sun and a night outdoors, provided the temperatures are above 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. This slow, patient process is absolutely vital for a seamless transition into the garden. Throughout this entire process, it's important to know how to decode a healthy seedling. What are the visual cues that tell you everything is going right? A perfectly healthy tomato seedling will have a short, thick, and sturdy stem. It should be a deep, vibrant green, almost purplish in some cases, which indicates it's getting plenty of light. The leaves should also be a rich green colour, without any yellowing or brown spots. They should look perky and well-formed, not curled or wilted. If you were to gently slide the plant out of its pot, you would see a well-developed network of healthy, white roots filling the soil, but not so dense that it's a solid, root-bound mass. The overall impression should be one of compact, vigorous life. If you see these signs, give yourself a pat on the back. You have successfully navigated the most challenging phase of a tomato plant's life. You have created a perfect foundation for a season of incredible growth and production. These visual checks are your report card, letting you know that your care and attention are paying off beautifully. Of course, things don't always go perfectly. One of the most common problems gardeners face is developing leggy seedlings. This is when the plants grow very tall, very quickly, with long, thin, pale stems and small leaves. They look stretched out and are very fragile. The cause of this is almost always a single issue: not enough light. The seedling is desperately stretching itself, trying to find a more intense light source. If you see this happening, the solution is immediate and simple. Provide more light. Move your artificial lights closer to the tops of the plants, down to that 2 to 3 inch range. If you are using a windowsill, it's a clear sign that you need to supplement with a grow light. The good news is that you can often rescue leggy tomato seedlings. Thanks to their ability to grow roots from their stems, you can use the deep planting technique we discussed. When you pot them up, or when you finally plant them in the garden, you can bury a large portion of that long, leggy stem. This will not only fix the height issue, but will also turn that weak stem into a strong, root-producing asset. Another common issue you might encounter is the yellowing of leaves. This can be alarming, but it's usually a solvable problem if you can diagnose the cause. Most often, yellowing leaves on a seedling are a sign of a watering issue. If the lower leaves are turning yellow and the soil is consistently soggy, you are almost certainly overwatering. The roots are suffocating and can't absorb nutrients. The solution is to let the soil dry out a bit more between waterings. On the other hand, if the leaves are yellowing and wilting and the soil is bone dry, you're underwatering. A less common cause, especially if you have been fertilizing, can be a nutrient deficiency. If the newer upper leaves are turning yellow while the veins stay green, it could be a lack of iron. If the older, lower leaves are yellowing, it could be a nitrogen deficiency. This is why starting with a gentle balanced fertilizer after the first true leaves appear is so important. By observing which leaves are yellowing and checking your soil moisture, you can usually pinpoint the problem and correct your care routine to get your seedlings back to a healthy, vibrant green. As March comes to an end and your last frost date approaches, you enter the final countdown. Your seedlings are now hardened off and look like robust young plants, ready to take on the world. Now is the time to prepare their final home, in the garden bed or large container. This is not a step to rush. The quality of this soil will determine their health and productivity for the entire season. You should amend your garden soil with a generous amount of high-quality compost or well-rotted manure. This will enrich the soil with a slow-release source of nutrients and improve its structure and water-holding capacity. If your soil is heavy clay, adding compost will help loosen it. If it's sandy, compost will help it retain moisture. Plan out your spacing carefully. Indeterminate tomatoes, in particular, need a lot of room to grow. Spacing them at least 2 to 3 feet apart is crucial for good air circulation, which helps prevent diseases later in the season. Getting the garden bed ready ahead of time means that on planting day, the transition for your precious seedlings will be as smooth and stress-free as possible, setting them up for an explosive start to their life in the garden. And there you have it, the entire roadmap to turn tiny seeds in March into a tomato jungle in July. We've seen that the urgency of starting this month isn't just a suggestion, it is the strategic foundation for your entire harvest. From choosing the right variety and sterile soil, to mastering light, water, and that game-changing deep planting technique, every step you take now directly translates into more and better tomatoes this summer. The most critical takeaway is this: the work you do in the next few weeks, inside your home, is more important than almost anything you will do in the garden later. You are building the engine of your plant right now. So imagine it. It's a warm evening in August. You're not at the grocery store buying bland, pale tomatoes. You're walking into your own backyard and picking a perfectly ripe, sun-warmed, intensely flavourful tomato that bursts with juice. That future starts today with the simple act of planting a seed. If this guide has helped you feel more confident about starting your tomatoes, do me a favour and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more gardening guides that deliver real results. Thank you so much for watching. And now, I have a question for you. What is the one tomato variety you are most excited to grow this year? Let me know in the comments below. Happy planting!